time is only decently late, but nothing crazy. So plug straight into my Tesla autopilot is Planet Fitness. Goal, get an arm pump. Scratch that. Get a really good arm pump. So that's the plan. But not exactly certain what I want to do arm-wise. So jump inside my head. Let's sort of run through the thought process out loud. Because I've got a couple choices. I have a couple choices. There are a few main points which never change workout-wise for me, unless I'm like in a serious rush, or if I have to work around like a tweak or something. Like if I hurt my biceps somehow, I wouldn't go as hard on biceps, of course. But let's say everything else is working out, all checks are green. It's a go from every department muscularly. Then a few things are going to be the same. I'm still going to do my, 8-ish, maybe 9, maybe 6, maybe around 8-ish. That's probably a good average sets for each body part, triceps and biceps. And I will make sure that those sets are pretty hard. Like no warm-up will count as a real working set. I think all around, well, before I get into talking about the workout, all around, I'm talking the whole freaking planet of lifters, I think there's a lot of fluff work being done. If you do a set where maybe you think, okay, maybe I'll go a little bit heavier, and you stop it at like 6 reps, that was not a set. That was nothing. Now, sure, it does have a marginal, fatiguing effects because you did do a few reps. But when I think of a working set, that means that I'm going all out on that specific muscle. And anything short of that is just a warm-up. Unless, there's one caveat, sometimes the first set of a workout, I'll know I kind of racked it a little early. Sometimes I'll do a set of leg extensions where I know, okay, I probably could have gone a little bit more. I was just being a baby about the burn. But even then, I just kind of consider that a warm-up set. But once you're really into the meat and potatoes and you're warm, your sets should be, you pushing it to the point where either your targeted muscle is on fire or you physically can't do another rep, at least not reasonably. But either way, so 8-ish hard sets. I might sprinkle in a superset or a drop set, like where I do a set of dumbbell curls heavy and then grab dumbbells half the weight and burn out with some more reps. Or maybe go back and forth, do a set of pushdowns immediately into a set of like maybe cable curls by dropping the straight bar handle down at my feet, stuff like that. Those are kind of the things which are bouncing around in my mind. But I think, yeah, so I want to do all triceps first, all biceps first, because you can kind of go back and forth. Arm day is, I think, one of the best days to superset 2 alternating muscle groups with. So I could do a set of pushdowns, wait a second, go do a set of curls. I could do 2 sets of pushdowns, 2 sets of curls, kind of a back and forth along those lines. And it's still going to be a good lift. But today, all triceps, then all biceps. So honestly, that's the main gist of what I wanted to decide. Because the rest of any choices that I want to make set-wise and exercise selection-wise, I'm really going to make once I'm in the gym. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everyone, especially not beginners. It's going to be much more beneficial for you to have written out, exercise choices and rep schemes, or at least, a number of sets of certain movements that you're going to do, just because it's much easier to track your progressive overload. If you know that you did 225 for 8 on, flat bench 2 weeks ago, and now you're doing that same chest day again, then you should make sure you're doing at least that weight, if not a little bit more, or the same weight for a few more reps. But as you progress lifter-wise, you kind of know your own strength to the point where you don't need to look back at your training logs to know, okay, if I curl the 60s, I'm only going to be able to get about 10-ish. And not even that, not even basing that off of like your history of sets. You just know based on feeling, you get kind of a sense of your strength, which becomes much more accurate over time. You know, it's like when you see a dude at a fucking carnival and he's like guessing how much people weigh. He's done it for so fucking long, he's kind of got a knack for it. So as a beginner, a lot of the times you might not know your own strength. You'll either overestimate it or underestimate it. Do a scrappy set, and you're like, oh, that's way too easy. Fucking, I picked the totally wrong weight. The more experienced of a lifter you become, you'll get the sense during your warm-up sets, and I know I will, as I'm doing curls or let's say push downs, like, okay, 70s for this set of curls is about right. If I go any heavier, I'm just going to be swinging it and my form's going to break down a little bit too much, a little bit too far beyond my comfort zone. And if I were to do the 60s, I'm going to sit here for 20 reps. That's going to be way too many. So really, now that I know I want to do triceps first, followed by biceps, there's nothing else to do other than go in there and do it. And that did not just happen spontaneously. I've got to really do a deep dive in all my fucking like files and old phones and oh, I wish I had a different phone right now. That woman is walking her cat and her dog at the same time. That's great. But I'll go back and look at like my Google Drive and my old phones and stuff because I used to have all my workout routines and the workouts themselves written out. Because for a long time I was really deep into tracking it. I still am now, but I kind of track it in a different way. I've got all these videos, you know, more of a, I want to say documentary. No, just a different kind of documentation of what I'm doing. But yeah, I've got like old splits and different bicep workouts and very rudimentary shit early on. But even if my workouts weren't necessarily ideal, doing the same routine over and over again, I know usually I kind of speak against that. Like you don't want to do the same shit every time because your workout's gonna get stale. You might not enjoy it as much. Your body's gonna get used to it, kind of in a bro science-y, Arnold kind of shock the muscle kind of way. But repeating the same sort of routines and making a change intensity-wise over time, it is beneficial. If you do the same arm day back to back to back, not days back to back, but throughout the weeks, and you can tell that you're starting to get stronger and you're curling heavier, or you're doing more sets, or you can tell you're just becoming better at training intensely and you're pushing yourself harder. Maybe Spotify Discover Weekly was extra good this week and all your lifts are sweet because it's coupled with some sick fucking music in your ears. It is good to be able to see that. So, progressive overload, out of every kind of lifter jargon words that there are out there that get thrown around, I'm talking like reps in reserve and this or progressive overload is up there in S class in terms of an important fundamental idea to understand. Because bodybuilding in a muscle growth context, it's not all about strength. Strength is not the number one vector which I'm trying to maximize. I'm not a power lifter. But in terms of muscle growth, these sets, each of them can have a slightly different sort of end goal or style which I'm trying to focus on. Now, there are sets where I'm going much lighter, very slow, really focusing on squeezing, and the fatigue from doing a set like that where the weight is manageable, but I'm fighting against the burn and the discomfort of really pushing it, and getting to the point where even though it's lightweight, I can still hardly keep going, either burn induced or just the fact that I can't fucking move the weight anymore. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there's sets where I'm only doing like 8 reps. That's usually about the minimum I like to do, with as much weight as I can possibly do, because I'm trying to put as much tension on the muscle as possible. And then there's kind of an in-between state, I'm talking fascial stretching and just everything else. But those reps which are more tension-based, moving around as much weight as I can. Not in a sense of like, okay, I want to do a 100-pound curl just for the sake of doing the 100. No, I mean doing as much weight as I can physically move around within a reason to put as much tension on my biceps or whatever fucking targeted muscle I'm trying to hit is. I do think that that's a different stimulus. If someone were to train and only do very light weight and that was it, like real light squeezing sets, I don't think that's where it is, man. And that's I mean, that's just from my experience and everything else. But an even mix, I can recommend that your training style have an even amount of heavier sets as well as lighter sets, and say that with pretty much full confidence. But let's get over there a little quicker, get warmed up, and start doing some pushdowns. Or maybe machine dips, who's to say? Let's find out. You guys give me a little bit of flack for saying this sometimes, but the full stack on a pushdown, that is within reason. That is not something that should take years to achieve. At least if you actually go to the gym on a consistent basis and, go hard. I mean, fucking little bro, Mr. Mark Sulik, his ass is repping the stack. He could probably do a little bit of an extra added plate too. But stack plus a little bit of extra weight. And look, this is not like I'm pushing exactly like 230 pounds or whatever, because this pulley's making it lighter. But this is an amount of weight where it's something for sure. And I mean, if you're capable of doing a heavy set, why wouldn't you? It just doesn't make sense to me. Of course, if I really thought it was going to hurt myself, or if my elbows were on fire, I would say, okay, you really got to back off. But like I was saying in the car, I really do think that not an insignificant portion of your working sets should be pushing yourself to, physical fucking failure. And at least for me, this is just my preference, increasing the weight and getting down to that lower rep sets, that's easier for me. For me to sit here and try to do just the stack itself to absolute failure, let's just say it would take me fucking forever, because I'd be sitting here just busting out reps, and the fatigue wouldn't build on my triceps until like rep 30, So wherever your strength is at, be it the stack plus 100 pounds or half the stack, I do think you should try to push the envelope weight-wise to, a set where you're actually exerting yourself. Working out isn't just like signaling your muscles, okay, I think you should grow a little bit. It's a fucking stress on your body. And as you get bigger and as you get more developed, you're going to need more intense stresses to induce growth. Gains get stingier over time. So your vigor and your fucking effort levels should increase accordingly. But I think a few here, I may end up ditching the 25-pound plate, but still, just some heavy pushdowns. Squeeze them, of course, but you get the gist. Okay. One more at the same weight. Okay, now I can lose the 25. Oh, fire. Okay. I think that's enough here. Let's do some machine dips next. That'll be perfect. Pretty much exact same fucking style as those last pushdowns. Dips. Heavy as I can go. Well, I guess I could probably somehow jerry-rig a plate onto here, but I don't think it's very necessary. But this is definitely, in relativity, a little bit lighter. Like this set is a weight that I can manage. So the reps will look a little different. Instead of just kind of, pretty quick, throw it around, get gradually more and more fatigued. With these ones, they will be a little bit, let's just say, nicer. Instead of just busting out reps, I will stop at the bottom, really squeeze, and then come back up. In terms of hand placement, there's pretty much these kind of flat little pads. Whenever I do dips or dip machines like this, if this is my hands here, this is a neutral grip, this is like a parallel grip, I kind of try to turn my hands inward a little bit like this. Maybe not this far, of course, but it just kind of helps me feel like I'm pushing the handle sideways. So I'm using more triceps instead of chest, if you were curious. But let's throw this shit around. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I can feel it starting to use my chest a little bit at the end. 4 or 5. One more at least. Okay, let's do drops. Okay. Oh. Yeah, one more like that. That was a really good drop set. Slight change of plans. Instead of doing both portions of the set on the dip machine, I'm thinking pre-exhaust with 2 long D handles, overhand style, which, not to get off topic, but I do love this movement because it's combining sort of the best of both worlds of a straight bar and a rope. Because with a straight bar, you get your hands straight on top of the fucking bar, literally in the name, and this is where you're strong. Pushing down here is much stronger than like this and way stronger than like this. So I'm getting that sort of more ideal strength-wise position where I can recruit a ton of my triceps and be able to move a solid amount of weight along with it. But I also get the nature of the rope in that the handles can separate. So when I go down to the bottom, my hands don't have to stay, 6 inches apart the whole way through. I can pull them apart, and look, you can squeeze hard with a straight bar, but you can squeeze crazy hard with 2 D handles. So pre-exhaust here, and then a little bit of dips. We're getting close to the end. Triceps are pretty fucking cooked. Yeah. 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 Okay. Ugh. Okay. Oh yeah. Your triceps are nuts already. I know exactly what I want to finish on too. So let's not waste any time and get to it. Finally, a moderately light set instead of really heavy. But I usually do like those at the end. At least things where I can really focus on squeezing. So instead of trying to maximize the work done, in a sense, I'm really trying to fight through the burn. That's kind of that's my antagonist. That's who I'm up against. So decently light, at least relative to what I've been doing. And then kind of cross body, grab one of these. And then like here, which I've always liked as a finisher. So probably 2, maybe just 1. We'll see how this one goes. Yeah. 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 Okay. One more, and then curls. Okay. Do a little drop set action. Okay. Tries are fucking cooked. To the point where, even without any bicep pump. Okay, fuck, I lied. I can touch my shoulders. Once biceps start getting pumped up, finger to shoulder contact, impossible. But let's go get warmed up for curls. Whether it's a combination of just the music choice or whatever else, I'm decently fucking fired up today. So let's throw the 75s around. And of course I warmed up. 75's cold would be fucking bananas. Fucking hell. Okay. I gotta drop the weight for the next one. Let's move on. I think that's enough dumbbell. Slightly different, actually very different. Now it's a machine, only one arm at a time. And I say this a lot. Well, really every time I do this machine, I say this, but I haven't lifted at Planet Fitness for a while with this preacher. So I'll explain it again. If you're a long-time viewer, this is going to be something you've heard before. But for whatever reason, this preacher curl, I love the angle. I love the bench. Like, it feels good on my elbows and everything. Seats can be the right height. But when I hold on to this actual handle here, like, it kind of forces my hand in a specific place, and I can't rotate it as I do the curl. And something about it just tweaks me. Like, I feel so much forearm, and it's got like different tension on my wrist. It's just like too constrained of a movement. So I'm sure some people love this machine because for them, their elbows and their forearm, the angles of them and whatever are all perfectly made for this. But for me, it's just kind of off. So instead of saying, screw this machine and doing something else, I've got a fix. You take a short D handle, slap it around the handle like this, or the cable or whatever. And this gives me just a little bit more freedom of motion on my wrist. And I feel my bicep way more. So if you need to do a workaround on some machines, like on squats where you throw a plate under your heels, or maybe you're a shorter dude and you have to put like a few bumper plates on a hack squat so that you can actually unrack it, like stuff like that, it's worth thinking about. And if you ever see somebody do something like that, it's probably in your best interest to ask them, like, why are you doing that for? I've never done that before. Because worst case scenario, they say something silly and you're like, oh, okay. Best case scenario, you talk to somebody at the gym you haven't talked to before, you get a new pal, and you get a new movement. So it sounds like the odds are in your favor. But a few sets here, decently heavy single arm, you get the gist. Okay, fine. Yeah. Another benefit, single arm preachers, you can give yourself assistance. But one more, a little lighter too. That might have been pushing it. Okay, fine. Oh, goodness. Fine. One more just like that. Oh, goodness. Okay. Holy shit. That feels really fucking good. Look, you can do a light squeezing set of curls all you want. But for me, doing a set like that, even if there isn't a massive emphasis on the contraction and holding it, this is getting me fucking pumped. So next, well, let's find out what's next. I'm gonna think about it for a little bit. Some V-bar curls should be perfect. Actually, let's roll up the sleeves for just a little sneak peek at the pump. And not just for you, I kind of want to see them as well. Okay. Oh my gosh. One more. One more. And I'm curious. Because, actually, fuck my music. So, look, I'm well aware. Those last few reps on that set, I was cheating. I was using my body to help swing the weight higher up so I can actually get to the top and then ride it down. Do you really think that makes it a bad fucking set? Because look, from my perspective, and you might not feel what I'm feeling on my biceps, but failure, all biceps first. I mean, you saw that first set of curls. Those first 10 reps, none of this. But as a finisher, you know, using some body language to force the rep up to the top and then getting to ride it down. Look, man, I'm not saying you have to do it. I would never say that. But for me, this feels pretty fucking cool. But then again, that's with my whole fucking time lifting, years, whatever. I'm not your dad. Do whatever you fucking want. But this is what I want to do. And also because I know it's going to wreck my biceps in a good way. Okay. All right. This time I won't make the form crazy and just do a drop set with the weight. Okay. Oh. Let's go finish with some dumbbells, but we're nearly done. All right. Finisher, I've got a two-parter in mind. So 50-pound dumbbell curls as, let's just call it portion A of the set, and then 60-pound easy bar curl as portion B. So 50s to, I mean, it's the first part of the set. I'm still working towards the end of it, which is right here on this easy bar. So I don't have to take the 50s to absolute failure. I'm still going to push it to a pretty decent amount of fatigue so that when I get to the 60s, this 60-pound easy bar feels fucking heavy. But 50s to, I would say, moderate discomfort. And then 60-pound easy bar, it's a failure. And when it comes to supersets and drop sets or stuff like this, when it's just one muscle group, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want. You know, I mean, what I mean by that is you can pick two movements for one body part, do one of them kind of heavier, and then by the time you're fatigued from that one, jump straight to another one lighter. And odds are it's going to be a good set if you push it. You know, if I'm doing quads, I could do fucking leg extensions as the pre-exhaust part, and then jump onto a machine leg press, and my quads are going to be on fucking fire. Or I could do, RDLs as the pre-exhaust and then move on to hamstring curls. Or I could do pec flies, move down to bench. You have free range. And that's where I feel like lifting for a good amount of time and thinking about what you're doing and how things feel and what you like and what you don't like, that's going to pay off later on because you're going to get to do little, supersets and drop sets and stuff like this, which aren't just like generally accepted to be good, but will actually be kind of catered to your own fucking likes and dislikes. So for me, I love a set of fucking dumbbell curls. Feels good. I can squeeze my biceps hard. It's a good set. Easy bar. Oh, not as much. I work a lot of forearm when I go really heavy. But with this much weight, once my biceps are already pre-exhausted, it's probably only going to take me 5 or 6 reps to get to a point where I can't even do another one without a little bit of swinging. And then swinging's a failure. I mean, there's no way that this is going to be a bad finisher. So let's just get it done. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. All right. All done. Let's go fucking pose down. All right. All done. And do not worry. No one's changing. That's kind of up to your own discretion. Of course, if you're going to be in the locker room and you're going to pump down, don't fucking record anybody else. Or at least, no, I can say that with certainty. Don't fucking record anybody. But if the room is empty, I say make use of it. So let's get my white balance correct. Zoom in just a touch further. And there we go. Actually, we can probably get a little freak here exposure-wise. Drop it. Oh, yeah, here we go. So what do you think? What is underneath these sleeves? Is it a pair of pythons? I would hope so. And I also think so. But let's find out for sure. Talk is talk. Let's see some real fucking visuals. Boy. Yeah, it's kind of hard to even reach my collar. So if you guessed a pair of fucking pythons, who would have thunk it? You're correct. Oh my goodness. I mean, look, we're not getting into fucking Lavroni territory. That's pretty nuts still. That's far off. But, I mean, there's a bicep and there's a tricep. I see the resemblance. Oh my goodness. Boy. Yeah. What else is there? Kind of a sort of a little something like this. There's kind of hereish. This pose gets crazier the leaner I get, because you can start to see some bicep striation in here before it actually becomes the full kind of belly or whatever. But that's a set of arms, the likes of which I can pose down with and say, hoorah. But let's skedaddle. I have developed the unsavory habit of turning my passenger seat floor into a pre-workout bottle receptacle. I've got like 10 empty Gatorade Zeros, which I use as my pre-workout, or I've been using as my little pre-workout jug, drinking on the way to the gym, and then throw it. Oh my goodness, I gotta clean this shit out. But simply just proof that those lifts happened. So, not the worst thing in the world. Definitely kind of not the best look if somebody were to take a peek in here. I'd say it looks like I fucking live in my car. But really good fucking arm day. And I was not joking. When I was talking about, before that set of 60s or 75s or whatever, when I said I was real amped up, that was a good set. Honestly, yeah, that workout was kind of an eye-opener in a sense. Every few months, every so often, and I don't know if anyone else has run into this, but usually it's whenever I have a really good lift and I'm really pushing it. Whenever I have, pretty much just a really good day, lift-wise, that raises the bar in a sense. So I feel like the last few weeks of my lifts have been a little scrappier. Now, of course, it's an arm day, so going hard on an arm day isn't that difficult. Like, going hard on a leg day will require a bit more fucking mental focus and energy because the sets are much more stressful. Arms relatively are a much smaller muscle. My bicep isn't even the size of just one head of my quad. So, definitely a different game with some different body parts. But kind of just the energy, yeah, that's the bar now. So every so often, if you have that sort of moment of realization, like, oh shit, I can push myself harder, and oh, maybe I haven't really been going as hard as I should have, that's not a problem. But that is something which you need to act upon. So now in my mind, I need to make sure that tomorrow's leg day is as good as that arm day or better in terms of intensity, overall lift, pump, everything. And same thing for the chest day after that, the back day after that, and then the next arm day in succession. So over the years, as a beginner, of course, you're not going to be able to train super well. You can train hard, you can train pretty good, but after lifting for 4 years, you're going to be much better at executing your reps, even if the reps are a little sloppier. Like, look, anybody could do a set of those V-bar curls where you're kind of swinging it around. But I was putting a ton of fucking tension into my biceps, and you saw the fucking pump. I'm not sure if you can never translate the feeling of a pump through the video, but this arm day was much better than any of the last 2 weeks worth that I've done. So, good amount of fatigue, really pumped. Those are the 2 boxes I'm trying to check off every lift, and today's arm day did it. But after you lift for a while, you're going to be better at training harder. You'll have done it for longer, and should be how it kind of looks. As a beginner, you're going to start off with this level of intensity. That's as much as you can really muster. You do it for long enough, and eventually you're going to get used to it. You don't start a new job and immediately get every fucking responsibility that the 15-year veteran guy is doing, right? You start off easy, you're getting introduced to it. And then over time, more is going to be expected of you to keep performing. So if you can get a certain amount of gains, just kind of cruising as a beginner, you got newbie gains, you're very prone to muscle growth. After a little while, that's not going to work anymore. The way that I was training in my first, 3 months of working out, if I kept that exact training style and intensity for the last 6 years or 5.5 years, I would not be where I'm at. I would not have made continual progress. I would have fucking plateaued, because that's just not enough. So after that certain amount of months, I kind of realized, okay, I need to change things up a little. I need to look at my own training. I need to do a little more research. I need to come up with a split and like get my volume down. I was doing way too much volume for a long time. Not like I'm saying you can do so much where you're gonna start losing muscle instantly, but if I were to sit there and do 30 sets of biceps instead of, what was that, 8, it would do me no good. And the just general fatigue that my biceps would have from that would not be conducive to more gains. If anything, it's going to cut into your fucking recovery, because there's a certain amount of damage in muscle stimulation where those two lines are pretty much correlated. You're doing a certain amount of damage, but you're also stimulating your muscle in a way which is going to recover and grow from, or in a dieting context, recover and maintain its size and strength from. So in my mind, by the time I get fully pumped and I feel nice and fatigued, let's say it was 8 sets like today, then these two lines, like one is my finger and one is my thumb, they're going to match. I'm getting more and more fatigued. I'm doing damage to my biceps, which my body is going to have to recover. And I'm also inducing muscle stimulation. Right? So it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. And in my mind, when I hit that around 8 set mark, that's where I think, that's the reason I ended the workout. It's because I think that ending right there is pretty much enough to stimulate my biceps and not overdo it to the point where I'm doing unnecessary damage. So if I were to continue doing sets, I think that these two lines are going to separate, where the muscle building progress right here, the thumb, is going to start to probably fucking decrease, and the damage that my biceps are fucking feeling is going to increase. So if I were to do 30 sets and I try to go hard on every single one of them, yeah, my biceps are going to be sore, but they're going to be sore in a way which I don't think is going to make them grow. If I ran a mile, and I tried to do it before, like last summer, I wanted to try to go for a run outside because I was watching Epo, and that was his cardio, just kind of running. So I went to this dam that I like. It's kind of a big set of stairs, and then just a long sort of like man-made hill, which you can kind of run across the top of. So I was getting all excited to do it. My quads were destroyed. Like, my quads were fucking blown up, soreness-wise, the next day. And is it because my quads got hit so hard that they were going to grow? No, they're just fucking sore, So stimulating your muscle is not the exact same thing as just obliterating it, at least in the sense of overdoing it and overstressing it. So if you're doing what you might call 12 or 15 sets in one lift, I think on one hand, you're doing more than necessary, but on the other hand, I also think you're probably not doing your sets with enough intensity to the point where you're kind of doing a little bit of fluff work, Because if I took anybody, gear, natural, older, newer, and if they did around, let's say 7, 9, 10, kind of around there, it is a little bit wide of a number, but if they were to do sets of bicep curls of any variety, preachers, dumbbells, cable, whatever, go back and forth, maybe only do one. If they're to do about, every set 2, pretty much failure, maybe some drop sets thrown in there as well, just for kicks. Well, no, not just for kicks, because those are good sets. If they're really going hard, by the time they get to around 8-ish, I think they're going to be fully pumped. They're going to be fully fatigued. And, when they go home, eat their food, take a nap, and come back again the next day over time, their biceps are going to fucking grow. So that's up to you to kind of figure out which party you're in. Either one, and of course this is my opinion, but it is what I've been doing, and it does seem to work. Not that that's proof, but, there's no one way to do this shit. But, do you think that you're really doing your volume right to the point where when you finish your last set, it feels like your last set and you're making reasonable gains with it? At the bottom line, that's the most important thing. If you're making gains, who gives a fuck what I say? You're growing. Badass. But if you're kind of plateaued, then more than likely you're in one of those two cases training-wise. You may be doing too much fluff sets, or you may just be in there for longer than necessary. And I'd say it's more often the case that people are doing more fluff. It's not, as much as people love throwing around the word overtraining, the population of people, or lifters, but that's my people. The amount of people who are overtraining for real, weight-wise, a tiny fucking percentage. Honestly, I think that just gets thrown around to kind of justify people training easy, and I stand behind that. So, taking food out of the equation, let's say you do know how to eat in a surplus. If you're noticing a plateau, and your training is where you think that issue may stem from, then those are your two sort of moves, I think. But, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. So, if you're not growing, I'd say the most prevalent issue is people aren't eating enough food. But let's say that you can't eat enough, but you can tell your training's a little off. You gotta up the intensity. If you don't stress yourself to the point where your body has to adapt to it, then, fuck man, you're never gonna improve. You're not gonna. Whatever, I'll say it anyway. Maharaga is not gonna have to adapt to some random chump throwing a punch with zero cursed energy, right? You gotta hit him with some cool shit for him to actually make moves and improve himself, right? So that's you. So, if you throw a set of, 10 reps of dumbbell curls at yourself, and you don't really push it that hard or really at all, and you just, do the reps and you put the weight down and you just do that again and again and again, I think you're crazy to expect to build a big set of biceps. Because in all things, I do like to kind of use extremes as a measure of kind of gauging what side I'm on in certain, on certain topics or certain arguments or whatever else, certain debates. Because, when you take things to the extreme, at least in terms of like hypotheticals, it does kind of, point out major flaws in some ways of thinking, to the point where you can start to tell, like, okay, I probably lean a little more towards this side than I do this side. And when it comes to the training, the extremes are baby training, not really going hard at all, just doing what you consider exercise, which has benefits in its own right. If somebody just came into the gym every couple days and, I don't want to say played around, but just kind of did full body, like did a couple sets of leg extensions and then did some pull downs and maybe did some curls, or they just went to the gym and they did whatever, look, they would be more active than somebody who never did any of that at all. That is going to have benefits for them. But if you kind of want to get hyper focused on this and you want to make it something where you're making gains on a consistent basis, and you can tell when you look back at your progress pictures month after month, months after month, I'm talking, maybe 3 months chunks or so, you're noticing real differences, then training, just kind of having scrappy training, it's not going to do it for you. So I think pushing it to the point of as much as you're physically even able to recover from, it's going to be better for you. So, and then in my mind, not even thinking about it really specifically or really kind of deeply, who's going to make more gains? The guy who trains soft or the guy who trains hard? Not even getting into volume, not even getting into frequency or whatever else, but if on a consistent basis you have two lifters, they eat the same amount of food, they get the same amount of sleep, they've got the same genetic potential, and one of them trains fucking hard and the other one trains fucking soft, that's not even a question which one is going to get better results. So that's my stance, and I'm putting my foot down, right? Train fucking harder. And I'm not just saying that to you, I'm saying that to me too. All these a lot of the times in these little speeches, unless I'm really trying to say like a tip, like for, beginners or whoever else, because, I mean, you do listen to people who have lifted for a long time, at least to hear their perspective on certain things. But a lot of the time when I say this stuff, especially motivational and about intensity and everything, I'm kind of telling myself this stuff too, because I want to improve as a lifter. I don't think that I'm at my fucking pinnacle of training, not even close. This isn't something that you're just gonna watch a few videos on and after like a year you're gonna be a goddamn 100% expert and know everything there is to know. It's kind of a constantly evolving effort, and I think the more energy you can put into it, the better. It's your body. You get to do the training. You get to see the results. You get to decide what sort of lifts or, diets and sets and everything else that you want to do. And by going through that process, that sort of trial and error, you should, after not too long, develop a reasonably fucking strong understanding of your own potential for fucking gains. And in that sense, nobody else is going to know any better than you. But that kind of requires that you actually do put a decent amount of effort into it over time for yourself. So that's all I'm trying to say there, right? The harder you go, the further you'll go. No. Oh, I get. Yeah. Don't quote that. It sounds kind of silly saying the word go twice in one sentence. But you know what I'm saying. So that's all I gotta say, lifting hype wise. But plan now is to go home and I'll probably do a breakfast for dinner type situation. Have some eggs and toast and tuck myself into a nice cool bed. I didn't turn my AC on today, and it was hot compared to a few days ago. So the first floor of my house is fucking warm, but the basement, nice and cool. Nice and freaking cool. So tomorrow's leg day. I want to make sure I get a good night's rest, eat well, even though I'm in a deficit, get a good amount of fluids in my system so I can really dig deep on whatever that leg day ends up being. Squats, leg extensions, hamstring curls, maybe some RDLs, to be determined. But I say this with a pretty solid fucking degree of certainty. Nothing short of a lightning strike, being smited, is going to stop me from getting a crazy ass quad pump tomorrow. So I will see you then.